How long was I asleep for? Never did miss Steel Run. Been a while since I have shown face. And honestly, I did have plans to make more videos and have the videos be about Steel Run news, sort of as the news comes to us. But since that didn't exactly happen, I guess I'm just going to have to try and do all of it now. So in this video, I'm going to try and cover every single bit of news about Steel Run, the anime, just before it releases. So yeah, I'm going to cover things such as the episode, the characters, the music, the animation, and I'm going to talk about things like releasing and schedules later down in the video. So I hope you've enjoyed. Get stuck in, because this is likely going to be big, because it is everything at once. The first episode of this part of JoJo is very, very different to the other ones. So normally all of the parts air at the same length of roughly 24 minutes long each, a series length of 39 episodes from part 4 onwards. Part 3 was just a little bit longer, at about 45 episodes, and parts 1 and 2 were meshed together into a package deal of 26 episodes each. However, for JoJo's first, we're going to be breaking the 24-minute rule, and we're going to be having a 48-minute episode premiere. Now, the reasoning for the lengthening of this episode is likely due to the fact that all the manga that comes after part 6 are quite long. The average manga page count for all parts, part 3 through 6, is about 3,220, whereas Steel Will Run is 4,290, which means that if we're going at the rate that we would be going at for a normal JoJo series, at about 83 pages an episode, Steel Will Run would be over 50 episodes long, which, to be fair to it, is a lot shorter than some other animes out there, but still really big, especially compared to other JoJo parts. I, as well as many others online, thought that they could definitely have gotten away with doing a 45-episode series, but I think from here on out, David Productions want to keep a more uniform 39 episodes to a part, which is most likely why they've decided to do this absolutely ginormous episode, which is going to be running from chapters 1 through 12. Now, this knocks a hefty 400 pages off of the 4,290 page count, which is going to leave us with roughly 3,890 pages left to cover, which is a lot better, especially considering that will be covered over 38 episodes, being about 100 pages per episode. But, and more on this later, we might not actually be getting more episodes after episode 1 for quite a while. We should probably cover what's actually in this episode before we start thinking ahead. So what actually is going to be in there? A lot of horses. A fuckload of horses. At least 22 horses in this episode. But, by the looks of it, it will mostly introduce us to our characters, and will also be very, very heavily focused on the actual Steel Will Run race. We're probably only scheduled to see one stand throughout the entire episode. Now, other than the stand count, which I just mentioned, I don't want to get too deep into spoiler territory, so I'm going to give you a spoiler warning. Skip here if you don't want to get spoiled for the next part of this video, where I cover some things that are probably going to be cut from the manga. Now, for those of you that stayed, the very, very first chapter of Steel Will Run, matter of fact, the very, very first, sort of part of Steel Will Run, I guess you could say, it covers the backstory and the ambitions of the character Sandman. You know, why he enrolled into the race and the motives behind him doing that. Now, according to an interview transcription, as well as many sources online, the scene at the beginning of the manga is likely to have been retconned. Although, perhaps not entirely, it's likely just going to be reshifted around a bit. Now, according to this interview transcript, which features the JoJo's Part 7 creative directors Yasuhiro Kimura and Toshiyuki Kato, says that they're going to be shifting around parts like this in the first episode for the sake of structure and pacing, which I do kind of understand, because I feel like going into this, you're probably going to want to be seeing at least a little bit of Steel Will Run, a little bit of JoJo, Johnny Joestar, or Gyro, since those are the three main focuses of the part, from a setting and standpoint of view. I believe they did something similar to this in part 1, where they started off, I believe it was an Aztec scene, and there was going to be some kind of sacrifice performed with the stone mask. So they lay a person out on a table, and then they take the stone mask and they put the mask on them, and instead of it killing them instantly, it obviously turned them into a vampire. And this scene is sort of in the manga to help explain how the mask, like where its origins are and what its powers are. And if this scene doesn't sound familiar to you, that's because this was also cut from part 1 when part 1 first released. Contents-wise, it is really, really similar to the Sandman scene, because I believe they touch on how there are some rocks that Sandman has been, I guess, hanging about by, where there are some perfectly spherical carvings in these stones, likely left by somebody, Gyro zeppeli, who had been training there earlier. So again, two things that aren't necessarily needed to be seen, just some nice context that were in the manga, and context that's likely to be left out of both of them, unfortunately. Now, is there some kind of way I could see them bringing this plot point back into Part 7 somehow? Yes, I do believe so, because like in Part 5, Part 7 has flashback scenes. And what is this scene with Sandman? It's basically just a flashback scene, so I could see them in the future being able to somehow rewrite it into the story as a flashback scene at some point that is significant enough for Sandman. Although, then again, it's not something I see them needing to focus on too much. Unlike how they're going to animate the horses in the show. Many people have been concerned online about how Part 7 are going to tackle the issue of horses. So I'm going to sort of try and break down why horses are hard to animate. First off, in and of themselves, they're weird as fuck. They're long, they're spindly, they run with elegance, but also can run with quite an aggression depending on how the horse is moving. Which is also another thing, horses move very differently a lot of the time. They don't just walk, run, and jump, they gallop, they trot, and canter, all of which are animated really differently. And back to their weird spindliness as well, horses also walk differently to other animals, because obviously lots of animals have paws, less of them have hooves, and hooves contact the ground slightly differently to the ways that paws or hands do. And misconceptionally, horses aren't hard to draw, they're just really weird and really hard to animate. And I'm no expert on animation. I know quite a lot about it because I did a course in the UK, a college course, which isn't quite the same as college in the US. But someone who did do a US college equivalent course is a YouTuber called Jax, who has a very good video about the challenges of animating horses in Steel Ball Run, which I'm going to link in the description below for you guys to check out. Because not only is he a talented artist who has gone to university/college, he has also animated Steel Ball Run. Like, not officially on the actual animation team, but he has done animations and short films about them. So I think he's pretty well versed in his knowledge of horse animation and JoJo animation as well. Something I can more confidently give some advice on, however, is how they're going to animate them. Now, if you have a question of whether there's going to be 3D, I can 100% say yes. The 3D is most likely going to actually show itself in the show, but even if it doesn't, it's definitely being used behind the scenes. Take, for example, this shot where the horse is running and it's zooming out. I'm pretty sure that these horses are 3D. They're either entirely 3D or just traced over 3D, which I'll touch more on in a minute. But you don't need to have the horses drawn here. You can get away with them being 3D completely fine, because they are not in extreme detail, and nor do they have to be. I know that this is for literal seconds in the trailer. This clip could be a lot longer in the anime, but even so, they can still get away with using the 3D horses here. Now, back to the scenario I was saying earlier with the tracing. In this scenario, where they need to have a horse that is in more detail and needs to be animated moving, they're likely to be using 3D footage and just tracing over it. In the art biz, we like to call this rotoscoping. Scumbags that like to cut corners and get away with everything we say, and we're only telling you that AI is bad so we can keep getting away with it. Back on topic, again, animating horses sucks, and David Productions isn't a huge studio. If they were to hand animate literally every single horse that's in detail, it would have taken them years to complete this. Years longer. because of how long animating horses can take. So they're allowed to use this shortcut that, if I'm being real, is used a lot in other places anyway. And to be honest, from what I saw in the trailer, I was quite surprised with the quality that David Production brought forward. Not because they're a bad studio, but because of the size of them. I'm thinking of something like Mappa or, God forbid, JC Staff got their hands on this. It would not look as good, I don't think. I think they probably would have just traced over all of the horses. They would have probably used a lot more 3D, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, 3D, 2D, I think looks great if executed fine. But, I mean, in JC Staff's case, it would have literally just been a load of photos on a peg line being run around in a circle. My name is John Mustard! It wouldn't have looked good at all. So I'm very glad with what we've gotten. It's widely used in other areas as well. You know, it can be great for time or cost cutting, as we're seeing with Steel Ball Run, or sometimes can be used for humor, like in Smiling Friends. The last bit of the animation section is going to be more covering some of my favourite bits of 2D animation that were in the trailers, such as this scene here, where Gyro is throwing a steel ball at somebody, and it looks fantastic. The colour shifting is back. It didn't leave, but it's here, and it looks really, really, really good. There's also another scene here with Diego, who is on horseback, overtaking somebody, and this scene itself does look really cool. But listen! Play it again. One more time. Okay, now play it, but put the sound that I think it sounds like over it. Absolute JoJo. They got the fucking Dio clone with the Dio sound effects. Perfect. There's another scene here where Gyro is looking unreasonably sexy. I'm in absolute awe of those gold, likely unbrushed, perhaps just stained teeth. There's also a scene where he's just ore farming. There's actually a scene where lots of people are ore farming. I mean, Sandman here, he's just locked in. But there's also this nice scene here where he's running about and jumping. I quite like how they went about doing this animation. I think it makes him look quite strong. His movements are really, really solid. Poco Loco also tried to join on the ore farming bandwagon, but just ended up being an absolute silly guy. But I don't think that's very bad, since I think he fits the role much better. But to conclude it, there is this genuinely spine-tingling scene. I actually had tingles in my spine when I saw it the first time round, where Johnny is near the end of the race, and he's tailing Gyro and overtakes him. And oh my god, everything in this scene is fantastic. The angle at which they have shown it, the color shifting is fantastic. It means we're getting the original color palette in some capacity. The voice acting is insanely good. It's so good. And I genuinely, I had a shiver down my spine when I first saw this scene. This looks so good, and I am so glad that the quality of JoJo is this good. It's still good. If anything, it's gotten better. I'm never, ever gonna forget Lang Wrangler in part 6. That was a low. This, however, this is a high. This is really good. This is really, really good. But do you want to know what else is this fucking good? It's the music. The music's fantastic, bro. Just have a listen to the music. So, as stated prior, the music is fantastic. I'm going to play it in the background as I say my thoughts and pray to God that it isn't copyright protected. It's a week before release, so that might be dicey, but worst case scenario, I am a tiny channel and they probably won't give a fuck until the anime actually releases. So hopefully I don't get claimed. To begin with, I was a bit on the fence about it. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting. It wasn't also as JoJo as I thought it would be, you know. I think it's lyric-y in a way that is unlike other JoJo themes we've had. Parts 4, 5, and 6 did have lyrics in them, but they were more like melodical and background. And I don't know, just something about the Part 7 lyrics irked me a little bit. And I thought the actual song itself would be a lot more rocky, maybe like Catholic Christian churchy, or even a jazzy type thing, which this song is a bit jazzy. Well, it is jazzy, but I was expecting jazz in a very different execution to this. Although I will say my opinions weren't like entirely like, oh, I hate this theme so much. I think I was just a little bit shocked, and honestly, I wouldn't even have said, like, I wouldn't have said it was the worst theme. I would have probably placed it around the JoJo theme level, maybe above or below it. If we're talking like a line of quality that I was like, you know, thinking of, it is like a smidge below that line. It is just underneath there, a fingernail between them. But the thing is as I've let her cook in the oven and also play in my ears quite a bit more, I've actually come to really, really like it. I don't know, it's a very fun theme, it's very bouncy, it's very jumpy, and I think I was also just sat there thinking about what kind of scenes we're going to see in the show that the theme is going to be used with, and I just sat back in my chair. Yeah, this I was really, really thinking about it hard, if you can hear. But if I was to place the song on a tier list, this one I've just made literally right now here, I would probably put it around here, which I haven't decided yet because I'm probably going to make it as I edit the video, but it's probably going to be quite highly, because I really, really enjoy it. I don't think it's a bad song at all. Yeah, it's a great song. I really, really like it. I'm going to keep saying words so you can listen to it, but I'm not going to say too few words so that I get claimed. The song might have ended and I might be saying this for literally no reason. You'll only find out when I start talking about the sound design. The sound design in this part. Oh my god, they did so well. Foremost, we only have a small amount of what we're actually going to be in for hearing so far, but the two things I want to mention is, first up, the spin sound effects. Maybe just the steel balls spinning, but I think it might be spin as a whole. Have the fucking Hammond sound effects. Oh my god, we are so back, dude. We are so back. And if that wasn't enough, as I said earlier, the fucking, like, the world sound effect plays as Diego is overtaking somebody, and it's so good. I didn't expect them to do this at all. I didn't think that there would be this thematic sort of alternate universe sound design in any of the characters. I was really surprised when I saw this. I mean, it makes sense for them to do something like this, but I just didn't think it was coming. I didn't foresee it at all, and hearing it in the trailers was probably one of my favorite things about the trailers. It was so exciting when I heard them. And yeah, I hope you are as ecstatic about them as I am. Which leads me more into what I want to hear in the show. Probably some horse clattering and stuff. I didn't see it a lot in the trailer because I assume they muted it. It would be a bit distracting, especially since we would have been listening to the music. Not in full for the first time, but parts of the song for the first time. I think it would have been quite distracting if there was heavy sort of clattering and clopping in the audio. It would have been quite distracting. So they probably left that out intentionally. But in the show itself, I'm hoping that we hear it because I want to get into that feeling of there being, you know, this really intense and this massive horse race going on. You know, the horse races in the UK, a very famous one called the Grand National that happens every year. It's a very big betting event. Me and my family love gambling so much. So we obviously gamble in it every year. And that horse race only has like 24 to 36 horses. This one has hundreds. So we should be able to hear all of the horses running. That should be a thing they do, 100%. But anyway, I that's all I can ask for, really. Lots of horses and the insane level that they've shown so far with the sound design. They just need to keep that up, and this is probably going to be one of the best sounding parts in the whole series, which I think is crazy because we've already had some insanely well designed parts in the sound design, you know, region. But anyway, it's great. The sound design is great, but do the voice actors sound good? In this bit, I'm going to try and cover the entirety of the Japanese dub. I'm going to be nitpicky and annoying with the English dub because, quite frankly, I think it's a bit shit. I'm going to talk about the French dub as well, but I'm not going to talk about it as much, hence why the flag is smaller. Starting off, we have contender Johnny joestar's VA, who is Shogo Sakata, who is from the Kumamoto prefecture in Japan, and he is 28 years old. He's played Aki in Chainsaw Man, Gladion in the Pokemon anime, and Karen Sasuke from Fire Force, which famously is another Brave production title, so maybe it's the reason he was able to score this job. Although, looking through other credentials, I don't think he's entirely the best. I just feel like there's... Wait, what's that? Oh my fucking god, he's a twink, he's a fanboy, oh my god. Oh my god, he's perfect for him, yes! Gyro Zeppeli's voice actor is attractive, and also the voice of this guy, Machino, from Escape from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Nightmare, which is a part of the Escape Room series. And if you recognize this character, pause this video for 15 minutes and go outside. Anyway, his name is Yohei Azakami, he's 34, and he's from the Gunma prefecture. He's the voice of Guja Turk from Mobile Suit Gundam, and he's got a tough job ahead of him, because Gyro is a very, very bubbly and sporadic character that is very, very emotive, but in very different ways across the part. But I mean, if he can do a good then I guess he'll be kept around. Up next, Diego Brando. He is voiced by 32-year-old Kaito Ishikawa of Bunkyo, Tokyo. He's the voice from Sale from Part 5 and Genos from One Punch Man. Somewhat surprised, Kayasu, who was Dio's voice actor, didn't step in for this role, but I mean, he does fine. He's a pretty good Diego. Diego's always sounded slightly differently from Dio, even in the games, and I think it would be slightly jarring if they sounded the exact same. But yeah, I'm going to see how he does in general before I make my full opinions on him. I think he's a good choice. I think what I've seen from him so far is very, very good. And he was Genos in One Punch Man, which luckily didn't have the issue of bad voice actors, I don't think. It was just really bad animation. Lucy Steele's voice actor is Ri Takahashi, who's 32 from Saitama. She's Amelia from Re:Zero, who you may know from that one Giga clip.
If you don't want Amelia, you can always have me.
Well, hey, I didn't know the Knights had hot cat girls, too.
Actually, I'm a boy.
No, you're fucking not.
No, really,
I said, no, you're fucking not.
Or from Re:Zero, but I know them from the Giga clip. Now, again, we've only heard tiny bits from her, so I don't have a full opinion from her, but the one thing that's been grating at me is how the hell she prepared to play the 14-year-old wife of legendary group Steven Steele. Talking about Steven Steele, is he being voiced by Muhammad Abdul's voice actor? Yes! Steven Steele is voiced by Kenta Miyake, the 48-year-old Okinawan voice of the aforementioned Muhammad Abdul, as well as All Might from One Piece, Scar from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Giovanni from Pokemon, and Bowser from the Mario movie. I was sort of surprised that Steven sounded like this. I thought he'd sort of sound like a less senile version of older Joseph, the older version that appeared in Part 4. Like a bit of a sweet old man sort of thing, but I completely forgot that he's anything but sweet. His wife is 14, for fuck's sake. Poco Loco is voiced by Kenichiro Matsuda, who voiced Donovan from Part 2. He's also 48 and also from the Saitama Prefecture. Somehow sounds exactly like I thought Poco Loco would. I sort of had an idea for what Poco Loco would sound like, and this guy is essentially what it was. So again, pretty happy with that. Someone else who I thought would sound exactly the same as they ended up sounding in the anime was Potential Man, otherwise known as Sandman, who's voiced by Masaki Muzunaka, who's 36 from the Yamaguchi Prefecture. Again, sounds exactly how I thought it would, so completely fine. Overall, I think the casting for this went really well. I watched the trailer, and I absolutely loved how Johnny just belted the last line where he goes, and Poco Loco's little I thought they were both really, really good showings of what we could be getting. Now, I'm forgetting if Sandman and Poco Loco had voice lines in any of the games. I'm 99% sure that all of them did. The one I'm a bit confused about is maybe Lucy, but I think she had some kind of voice acting in the games. Poco Loco and Sandman, however, I can't remember if they did. If either of them did, it was Sandman, because I feel I can recall some kind of audio recording with a potential Sandman voice for him for either one of ASBR or Eyes of Heaven. But Poco Loco, I'm pretty sure, didn't have anything. So again, it was quite interesting to see that my envisionment of what they would sound like was quite close to what exactly I thought they would sound like. And all in all, I have nothing bad to say about it. Unlike the fucking English dub. Oh, brother, what the fuck is wrong with, like, English JoJo dubs? Like, not even just this one. I feel like a lot of them were quite bad. I had to watch through part 3, and I think parts 1 and 2 dubbed with my friend. I tried to get my friend into JoJo, and he wanted to watch it dubbed, and I said to him, "You're fucking crazy." And I think in the end, because we had to watch the remaining parts in Crunchyroll because they hadn't come on Netflix in the UK yet, he watched the Japanese dubs, and they were a lot better. And I think he sort of got lulled over into the dubs aren't that great side of things. But man, the Steel Ball Run dubbing was really, really, really bad. Gyro, to be fair, I think Gyro's fitting because he sounds zesty as hell. Johnny's your average English translation character. I'd say he sounds exactly the same as some of the other characters in the dub. But I tell you what, the worst thing about this is Diego. What the fuck did they do to him? Okay, what they did is they hired somebody who is American, and I'm sorry, but they just cannot do English accents. They weren't good at doing Diego's voice at all. They tried to make him sound British, but the person they ended up hiring to do the job, and again, I'm sorry to this person. I'm sure that they're a great English voice actor, and I'm sure they could do anime voice acting in loads of other potential, but the thing is, in this, all I think he sounds like is if an American was doing an accent of, like, a very flamboyant, like, effeminate, camp British person. And that just doesn't translate well for Diego, because I know he's a JoJo character, and that gives him all rights to sound really, really gay. But the thing is that in the story, I can't remember if Diego's from London or not, but irregardless of that, Diego is from a poor area. You do not get people speaking, like, Queen's English, or the type of English where you would expect somebody, you know, to be, like, calling someone a hogwash. If you're from a poor area of somewhere in London, like Brixton or Croydon or something like that. Like, Diego shouldn't sound like this. And there may well be some other, like, various... Like, Gyro doesn't sound Italian, for example, but... Look, I'm not Italian, so I'm not as angry about that. I'm just really angry that the British guy just does not sound good. Like... It's not like it's hard to find English voice actors that speak English, surprisingly. But they just seem to not be able to find one. On to some of the other characters, and again, maybe I am being too harsh here because this is just the trailer, but both Sandman just sounds bored and lacking in any kind of emotion. Pokolog was fine, I guess. I'd have no idea how the dub even made it into fruition like this, though. Like, it sounds really bad. It sounds amateurish. Like, you could have gotten people doing, like, you could have gotten a bunch of teenagers. The kind of age and skill level of the people who did the translation for JoJo where the Duang incident happened. You could have gotten those people, assuming that they weren't doing manga translations, and you could have had them do voice acting for this part, and it would have sounded better. But yeah, no, I 0 out of 10 dub. Horrible, unwatchable, I'm never watching this. There was more passion put into the last voice line in the trailer in the French dub than the entirety of the English. Je suis Johnny fucking joestar! So anyway, I'm very angry still, but visual changes are nowhere near as bad, luckily. So this is probably going to be a lot calmer of a section than the last. So obviously with some translation of some characters' designs, they had to do some alterations to make them a lot easier to animate, because Jesus Christ, I would have blown my head clean off if I was animating Johnny with all of those damn stars on his pajamas. And knowing how the Japanese pay their animators, I mean, I would have been doing that shit for 500 yen a month in a Famichiki. But anyway, the Johnny change-up went from this to this, which is fine. I mean, I didn't really want this design in the anime. I know a lot of people were fine with it, and again, to be fair, I am also okay with it. It would have been really hard to animate this pink and blue version of Johnny, but, and again, small spoiler warning, if you want to avoid it, skip here. If you look at the designs of Johnny, and you look at the design of Valentine, and you pull their stands out, and you draw the parallels between the two, oh my god, the characters' colour schemes are like dualities in a way, and it looks really good, but now if you make Johnny white and blue, you gotta make D4C white and blue. Wait. Nah, I fuck with that, actually. That's good. But still, I mean, it still just feels like a bit of a betrayal. I feel like the original color palette just worked better because, I mean, there was more pink. You know, it made more sense because, again, like dude, again, there's just so much pink. Valentine was pink, Tusk was pink, Johnny and D4C were blue and pink. Now the sort of connection of there being pink on all characters is just completely gone, and it just feels like a slightly like, or maybe even same level betrayal as when they took Poochie's badass purple fit and made it black. I did not like that, and I still prefer Manga Poochie to this day, but I like the other Poochie still, and he sort of made up for it with that really sick fucking hat that he got in the anime for like a single scene. Gyro over here is like a spot the difference puzzle. I mean, all that was removed were a few of the little like green accents. They did change his belt, which might prove some challenges for a scene that comes later in the show. Those who know. But he's basically the same. He's just got quite a few little bits that would change from green to orange. I mean, Diego is less of a spot the difference puzzle than Gyro, and that's because there is only one difference, and that's the fact that his color palette had the yellow changed to a white. Barely anything changed, and I am very, very happy about that because nothing was broken. I mean, they probably maybe could have changed it up a bit because Steelborn is quite beigey, and it would have made it slightly more readable. Again, white on beige isn't quite readable either, but it's an improvement, I guess. Steven Steele looks exactly the same. I think if they were to change any of the outfits for some of these characters, I think they probably could have, you know, given Steven the Epstein quarter zip. Considering that the Stubborn race is actually 100% completely canonically, I did not make this up, funded by the Epstein Foundations. So make of that what you will. Lucy has actually probably had the most severe changes of all the characters. But for the better, I'd say. Initially, I thought that her actual, like, character design, as in the human bits, not the outfit, looked really weird. Because I thought she was really, really, like, I guess buggy, almost. Like, I thought she looked a bit like a bug. And I thought it was really, really weird. But then my friends sort of pointed out to me that Lucy, in the show, looks way older than 14, you know. So maybe Steven Steele just needed his glasses checking. But, yeah, I now that I think about it, it makes a lot more sense for the 14-year-old character to look younger. Because, again, in the manga, she looks like, well, a lot older. Whereas here, she looks a lot more, you know, her actual age. Something else that changed quite a lot with her was her outfit. And that was actually quite a glow-up, I thought, because I think her old outfit was just really, 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 really pink. This one has a lot more going on with it, you know. Poco Loco's another character that's rather samey, and Sandman surprisingly looks rather similar to his original counterpart as well, which I find kind of crazy because I thought he would have been really hard to animate. His outfit, whilst, you know, not consisting of a lot of clothing, for the best, it's very complex. He is covered in tattoos. And I think he's quite complex in character, but they've actually kept a lot of his design true to the manga. So overall, the anime adaptations of all the characters were executed, I think, fantastically. I mean, I do wish we could have gotten the other Johnny palette, but it's not completely gone. I literally had shown it earlier. It's just going to be here for a little bit. So, I mean, like, anime onlys, this color right here on screen, this is the Johnny joestar color palette. But simultaneously do understand why they changed it. Because again, as I said, I would not be alive if I was one of the animators that was animating Johnny, assuming he was with the blue and pink colour scheme. Dear God, that would have been horrible. Before we move on to the last bit of the video, I'm just going to flash all the key arts up on screen at once for you to have a real good gawk at. Maybe bust out the spectacles. Really soak in all of the pixels. Because they've done a cracking job. I mean, again, not a lot here, and I'll give you time. I'll give you time to look at them. Timing! Oh my god, the timing of the show! It says right here in the thumbnail, a week from now, March 19th. Anyway, thank you all so much for tuning into the JoJo Direct. But before we commence the show tonight, I believe we have one more thing to show you. Look. I know this looks really, really promising. However, have you heard anyone else, other than all the people saying it's going to be weekly, actually say it's going to be weekly? I'm wanting to believe it really badly. I have not actually experienced a JoJo Friday. I came into JoJo's around about the end of part 5, but I wasn't at part 5 by the time that part 5 actually finished, so I didn't get to do any JoJo Friday stuff. But part of me thinks it could happen. I'll give you 10%. I'll give you 10%. First off, no confirmation that neither formats are going to be the right one. They've not said anything about group episodes, but I think it is still safe to assume that it's going to be that way. A, because that's how it was last time, and B, if it is, we're less likely to be extremely disappointed. Secondly, they are releasing one episode. If this episode is considered a batch, what the fuck? That would be like if they dropped the first 2 episodes of part 6 and just didn't give us anything until 8 months later. I don't think they can get away with that. I don't think they can keep getting away with this. If they did somehow do that, they would have like 3 months tops to release like the next 12 episodes before Netflix has a load of pitchforks or perhaps Stan users outside of their offices ready to rampage. In all fairness, it's insanely likely that someone at Netflix has seen all of the uproar, because if you go into the comments section of any video, I would like to bet any at least, all of it is just like, interesting. JoJo Friday coming or nah? Like 3,000 times. Somebody must have seen something there. So here's hoping they've learned from their mistakes and rectify them. I mean, look, if they gave Solo Leveling weekly releases, we can get our motherfucking JoJo Friday back. JoJo Thursday if they're releasing it weekly from the first episode. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time, assuming next time isn't in 7 months.